dancing. This woman here is starting to take pictures. She's in attendance, and this guy here is just walking.
Right. So I think this brings everyone back to I believe like every small town, even big towns, have the corner store. Everyone knows everyone. I know I do. It brings me back to childhood, to the good days, and it's really sad because now, like with my boys, they're not gonna have what we had when we were growing up, unless we instill it.
Right.
We have to continue on with that with future generations
Right.
and let them know it's okay to all hang out on the corner without having crime and negativity.
Right.
And all get together. And I love this piece because of that. It really brings me back to that.
And so I really didn't have an excuse to be out here engaged in the lifestyle. But as we know, I was sexually abused at the age of 10. And after having experienced that and then being bullied, I said, no more will I be a victim. So I became the aggressor. And that's what led me to prison. But in terms of being released and searching for a job, it's like, man, 21 applications. And the person that gave me a job was a former dope boy. He was released from prison. He knew what he was up against when he got out. He knew what I was up against now that I was out. And he had a rent-to-own company at one point, but that plummeted. And he eventually invested into a moving company. And he asked me, how you been since you've been home? And I conveyed how difficult it's been. And it was actually him who suggested, man, you got to start telling your story, and I'll give you a job. And so when I see what's going on now with this, these CDC layoffs and retail stores clothing, I can't even say I'm sympathetic, because I've been studying this moment since like 2001. And periodically I would have dialogue with a very, very, very small, limited group of people. When I say group, I'm not talking about even 5 or 6 people, perhaps 3. And even they would say, the shit you talk about will never happen in my lifetime. And it's going down. And it's not hate on my behalf that, oh man, you had 21 applications circulating, so now you mad and you feel you don't feel sympathetic toward. No. Society said, you know what, I don't have to hire your ass. You committed a crime years ago. I don't have to hire your ass. And those people in every facet of society, they're in government, they're in retail, they're in manufacturing, they're logistics, they're everywhere. Walmart wouldn't hire me. And so I had to say, you know what? I'm working with Lawrence, and then him being a small business, he couldn't compete with corporations, and he went up under. And my sister's, she was doing collections for a nightclub. People coming in the door, they would pay. She's very reliable, very honest, and she got me a job at a nightclub. And I worked it on the weekend just to pay restitution and parole fees. And so being homeless, it's something that I didn't allow my people to know about. I didn't share it with them. All they knew was I was going and I was coming. And it's a lifestyle that I adjusted to. adjusted to it, and I not only developed character, but I developed this hate for failure, for poverty, because I know I had given my best. I mean, when I went to prison, I was 19. I wasn't released until I was 32. And when you come out here to be a part of a society, you know what I'm saying, that you at one point disrupted because of your offense, and to hear over and over and over, you get those letters in the mail, we're not going to hire you because of this or that. And then to see what's going on right now, all these people who've been living in their bubbles, the bubbles are starting to burst. And the higher your bubble determines the impact of your fall. And it's only 4 months into 2025. Some people's heart gonna fail them. Heart attack, stress, because it's in the making. The concept was born out of a conversation of which an older cousin of mine was having. And she boasted about how grandmother and herself had left church one day and they navigated through the city and they made it back to grandmother's house. And when grandmother drove up into the driveway, the car just stalled out of gas. And it's like, in my mind, I'm like, how can a God that uses the earth as his footstool allow such an obedient one to struggle? Yeah, I was a child when I would see some of my dad's art laying around. Artwork consisting of poster board that he would draw up these like huge mansions, like 11 bedroom, 5 bath. He would draw up these live bands, 14-member band, color them. And so that's what my inspiration came from. And then, of course, when I became a teenager, I wrote and illustrated one of my first books titled Avalon Kids. And the theme behind it was a group of Christian youth who would spread throughout their city, telling people about their faith in Jesus Christ. When I first started painting, a lot of my art was strictly for me. I was painting it for me with hopes of gaining commission work. Once people see my capacity, what I'm able to do. However, people would lay their eyes on it and it became inquisitive because, as I tell people, my art stems from human relations, good, bad, and ugly. And there's some of my art that is kind of dark. It frightens people. It brings them to the reality that they are not so in charge of their lives as they thought they were. I figured now was the best time. I mean, since I'm a living artist, I wanted to really share my body of work, how I perceive the world, as well as at some point share my story. You know what placed me on this journey as an artist. I wasn't necessarily motivated to do it based on capital gain, popularity, but I had developed a love for it.
Swagger the great.